I have bad news, everybody. I've gotten into sim racing. I'm not good. Yeah. Even with my Lightning McQueen cars, I'm not that fast. You know, I realize it's something that a lot of older people get into, but I've started actually getting into sim racing again. I used to be back in it a while ago, 10 years ago, but that kind of went away. I've gotten back to the point where now every Sunday night I am doing sim racing with my boys. And we suck, but it's a lot of fun. I wanted to yap about it because it brought up something of my past that I really wanted to just yap about a little bit, which I thought was kind of funny, and a few other things. So look at that vagueness that we just talked about right there. That's vagueness. This is called foreshadowing. So you may know if you've watched any of my other videos, if you may not know if you haven't watched any of my other videos, and you may not know if you've watched my other videos and don't know, but I do like cars. Me gusta los coches is what I say when I walk into Taco Bell. But all my life, I've always been into cars. When I was growing up, I wasn't in a family that ever worked on cars or went to races a lot or anything like that. But my dad would always get the magazines. They'd get automobile magazines. And I would always go through and I'd look at the cars and, you know, I like the pictures. I didn't want to read anything because I don't want to read anything. But I really enjoyed the aspect of like just sports cars in general. And I kind of became or developed a fascination with wanting to learn about cars. And so by the time I was in second grade, I didn't know how to work on any cars, but I could name every single car that was on the road without fail. So that was a pretty cool talent that I had. But as that progressed on, it kind of like took a little backseat. Not that I didn't like cars anymore. I actually memorized the entire movie of Cars, the entire script. I could recite that by heart. And I had a whole lot of Hot Wheel cars and played with Hot Wheels just like every other kid did. But as I got older, I was, you know, into sports as a lot of people are in middle and high school. But then when the writing was on the wall in my junior year of high school and I realized, you know what, Philip? You are not good enough to play any sport at a higher level, so you're going to need new hobbies. I started getting back into cars again. I started looking on ways to work on cars, and more specifically, I wanted to get into racing. Now, again, I never knew, or I didn't think at least, that it would be any way that I would race professionally, and I never have raced professionally, so there's a little spoiler for you there. The end. Thanks for watching. But I just wanted to drive fast. I've never been a guy who's been into like drifting or street racing or anything like that. I wanted to be able to drive GT cars as fast as I possibly could. So when I was a junior in high school, I bought my very first console, an Xbox 360. My family never had gaming consoles really growing up. We had a PC, which I'd play a few old racing games, like Sports Car Racing GT, which came out in the 90s. That's how old it is, which actually for the 90s, it's a pretty decent game, like graphics and simulation wise. It's not great by any means, but it's actually not horrible, especially for a keyboard game. But I bought my Xbox 360, and the game that I got with it that I started playing the most was Forza 4. Not Forza Horizon, the one with the open world, but Forza 4, which is literally just racing on tracks. And that's why I got this Xbox, was to play that game. Like, yes, later down the line, I got really into Battlefront, and I've become very good at that, but that actually didn't happen for years after I got the Xbox 360 because I got it to race. And so I started racing, and I became actually really, really good at Forza Motorsport 4. Now, it's not a simulation game by any means in the slightest. It's more of an arcade style, but it does teach you the beginnings of racing. It's more of a simulation game than it is a full arcade, like Need for Speed type game. Again, someone, if you want to get mad about like the simulation realism of Forza 4, I know it's not there, but it does begin to teach you things like throttle control and racing lines and steering and all that, etc. Blah, blah, blah. No one really gives a hoot. But I raced that a bunch, and I got really good, and I started then getting older. And by that, I mean 1 year later. 1 year later, I was in my senior year of high school. Things are finishing up. I graduate. I get my first job. And I started going and racing go-karts up at a local spot about an hour away from me. And I would go at least once a week to their endurance races, and I got pretty decent at that too. And then something came out that I saw, and it had been going on, but I just didn't know about it because, you know, our family never really had internet growing up, so there's a lot of things that I just didn't know. But one of the things that was happening was that there was a competition called GT Academy. Some of you may have heard about it just from when it happened, and some of you may have heard about it because there's a movie that came out not too long ago. Not too long ago. I did it again. I'm not going to repeat that. You know what I mean? That's your fault. But the movie was called Gran Turismo, which is a movie based on a guy who went through this exact program. In fact, actually, I first heard about it, not because of this guy who did really well, but actually because there is a guy from my high school who won that competition. Like, he not just won to compete for it, he won the actual thing and became a Nissan driver, which is pretty stinking cool. But in order to do that, the way that it worked was that you would play the Gran Turismo game, and if you were good enough, you'd be able to qualify to get into a place to then qualify to go somewhere else. So it was like you could get into stage one, and I really wanted to do that. And so I didn't have a lot of money at this point, and so I convinced my dad to buy me a racing wheel and a PlayStation 4, which is where you could play Gran Turismo, so I could set it up and race. And that never happened. I mean, I got the wheel, and I got Gran Turismo, or I didn't get a Gran Turismo, I got a Assetto Corsa, and then I got the PlayStation, but my dad never got me a TV, and I couldn't hook it up to our TV in the living room because I couldn't have my wheel just sitting out all the time, and our TV was mounted up on the top of a wall. So I didn't have a way to race. Again, keep in mind, this is the story of like an 18-year-old broke kid. I was in college too at the time, studying mechanical engineering, which I didn't finish because I'm not very smart. But I just didn't have any money because all my money was going to community college, and I never was able to buy a TV. And so, long story turns into a very short story, which is I wanted to do this one thing, and that dream got very quickly cut off because I couldn't get a TV to run it on. Like, I just genuinely could not get a TV with an HDMI cord. I even tried going to Facebook Marketplace and buying something for 20 bucks, and it was a TV, but it didn't have an HDMI cord, and I couldn't switch over to VGA, and it's just like all these stupid things that lined up, and it's like lack of knowledge, lack of money, all of this, and it's just the worst timing. And then I kind of pulled the plug on that about 5 months later when my dad finally got a TV with an HDMI cord. And then he took that TV and used that for his office to watch football on Sundays. So there's that. And then that dream kind of went down the drain. And now I'm sad making this video. That's okay. But I continued to work on cars and all that jazz and blah, 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 blah. And I never really got back into sim racing because life got very busy. I got married and had a kid, and now I just don't have much time. But I realized I'm an adult. But I decided to just go ahead and pull the trigger and buy a wheel because my brothers had gotten wheels and I didn't. Well, one of my brothers. Why do you guys care? You don't care. Why did I add that in there? That's stupid. But I wanted to be able to race with them, and so I got myself the entry-level wheel. It's a Logitech G29 for anyone wondering. Like, I know, entry level. And boy howdy, I have gotten very addicted to it. It's bad, and it takes up so much time. Like, literally, I'm spending probably like 4 hours a week playing this stuff. It is such a time waster. It's not a time waster, maybe, but 4 hours is a lot of time to spend on something during a week. Like, for perspective, I'm out of the house 12 hours a day for work. I just don't have much time. Hey, if you could dislike this video, please dislike this video, and in the comment section just write out boo, quit complaining. And then if you do that, I'll quit complaining for one video, but not this one because I'm still complaining. I wish I had more time. That's it. All right, but my brothers and I created this spreadsheet to be able to look at our times and compare them to one another, and it's been a lot of fun. Anyway, that's it. See you later.